BBC News. Hello, I'm Moira Alderson. The authorities in Nicaragua have arrested another candidate preparing to challenge the veteran president, Daniel Ortega, in elections later this year. Felix Maradiaga is the third presidential hopeful to be detained. Here's our Americas editor, Leonardo Rocha.
Mr. Maradiaga was held after being accused of terrorism and plotting against Nicaragua's sovereignty and independence. He's been investigated under a controversial security law approved by the government-controlled parliament 6 months ago. Reports from Nicaragua say that he was badly beaten by police during his arrest and that his whereabouts now are unknown. Two other politicians who intend to challenge Mr. Ortega in November's presidential elections have been detained over the past week.
The Israeli government says it will now allow a flag-waving march by Jewish nationalists through Jerusalem, but has postponed the event until next week. On Monday, police rejected the route planned by the organisers because of safety concerns. Grant Ferret reports.
The march by right-wing activists was originally scheduled for a month ago, but ended abruptly when Palestinian Hamas militants in Gaza fired rockets towards Jerusalem. 11 days of conflict followed. The organisers had hoped to hold the march in full this Thursday through the Muslim part of Jerusalem's Old City. Hamas had warned that such a move could trigger a new round of violence, and Israeli police rejected the planned route. It's not yet clear whether an alternative route has been decided for next week's delayed event. The Israeli Prime Minister's office says the march will follow a format to be agreed between the organisers and police.
The former leader of the Bosnian Serb military, Ratko Mladic, is to spend the rest of his life behind bars after losing his appeal against convictions for genocide and crimes against humanity. A UN tribunal in The Hague upheld the life sentence handed down 4 years ago for atrocities committed during the breakup of Yugoslavia. They include the killing of nearly 8,000 Muslim men and boys at Srebrenica in 1995. Alan Little, who covered the conflict for the BBC, says the court's decision is significant.
It's hugely important in establishing the individuals that were responsible for what amounted to a huge state-sponsored criminal enterprise in the early 90s in Bosnia. It was absolutely vital, if that region was going to come to terms with its own past, that the nations in whose name those crimes were committed should confront or be confronted with their past and grow reconciled to their past in order to move on from it.
The South African Health Minister, Zweli Mkhize, has been placed on special leave by President Cyril Ramaphosa pending a corruption investigation. Dr Mkhize is being asked to address allegations that two of his close aides embezzled more than $6 million from public coronavirus funds. The minister denies any wrongdoing. BBC News. The US Vice President Kamala Harris and the Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador have discussed ways of stopping illegal migration by improving economic prospects and security. They've been holding talks in Mexico City. Most migrants who reach the US border say they're fleeing poverty and violence in Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador and Nicaragua. Ms. Harris said her government was cooperating with Mexico to tackle crime.
There is work we are also doing together that relates to our shared interest and concern about smuggling, in particular human trafficking, an issue I've worked on for a long time. We have a shared interest in what is happening in terms of narcotics and the trafficking of narcotics.
The Lebanese militant group Hezbollah has accused businesses of hoarding goods and worsening shortages as the country's economic crisis deepens. Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah suggested food, fuel and medicines were being deliberately kept back in what he called the warehouses of monopolists. While Lebanon has been plunging into economic disaster, its political parties, including Hezbollah, have failed to agree on the formation of a new government. 5 days before the scheduled start of South America's most prestigious football tournament, the Supreme Court in Brazil has said it will meet later this week to decide whether the event can go ahead. The extraordinary session on Thursday will consider two requests to block the Copa America because of the coronavirus pandemic. Brazil announced last week it would host the competition after Colombia and Argentina pulled out. In athletics, the women's 10,000 metres world record has been broken for the second time in 2 days in the Netherlands. The Ethiopian runner Letesenbet Gide finished in just over 29 minutes during her country's Olympic trials. She knocked 5 seconds off the record set on Sunday by the Dutch athlete Sifan Hassan. That's the latest. BBC News.